Every article you've ever read about making someone miss you tells you to do the same things. Go quiet, make yourself scarce, post a great photo, act like you've moved on, wait longer before replying, be unavailable in ways that are just available enough to keep them wondering. And I want to tell you that most of that advice is either manipulation dressed up as strategy, or it's missing the point entirely. Because making someone genuinely miss you, not performing absence to create artificial longing, but actually becoming the kind of person whose absence is felt, has almost nothing to do with what you do when you're not with them. It has everything to do with who you are when you are. This is Love Decoded. Today we're decoding what actually makes someone think about you when you're gone, the real psychological principles underneath the feeling we call missing someone, and what you can actually do about it. Not tactics, principles, because principles last. Tactics just make you exhausting to date. Let's get into it. Before we begin, subscribe to ensure that you never miss out on any of my videos. Before we get into what works, let's talk about why the conventional approach to making someone miss you usually doesn't. The conventional approach to making someone miss you goes something like this. Reduce your availability. Go quiet for a few days. Pull back on the texting. Post something on social media that makes your life look full and interesting. Let them wonder where you've gone. And the theory is sound at a surface level. Absence does create space for longing, and there is real psychology behind the idea that constant availability reduces perceived value. But here is the problem with applying this as a tactic. When you go quiet, not because your life is genuinely full, but because you are strategically withholding yourself, the inauthenticity of it tends to leak through. People are more perceptive than we give them credit for. They can usually feel the difference between someone who is genuinely busy and someone who is performing busyness. One feels attractive, the other feels like a test. And most people, when they sense they're being tested, either play along without real investment or disengage entirely. More importantly, manufactured scarcity only works if the person already wants more of what you're offering. If the time you spent with them was not particularly memorable, if the conversations were not particularly meaningful, if being with them did not create a feeling they want to return to, then going quiet doesn't make them miss you, it just makes you gone. This is the fundamental thing that most people get backwards. They focus on the absence and forget entirely about what they are creating an absence of. The question is not, how do I make them notice I'm not here? The question is, when I am here, what am I leaving behind? So what actually creates the feeling of missing someone? What is actually happening in the brain and nervous system when one person finds themselves thinking about another person who isn't there? Missing someone is, at its core, a form of craving. The brain has registered an experience as rewarding, a feeling, a quality of attention, a specific way of being seen or made to laugh or made to feel alive. And in the absence of that experience, it generates a signal that says, I want that again. That signal is what we call missing someone. And like all cravings, it is proportional to the quality and specificity of the experience that produced it. This is why generic pleasant company rarely produces the feeling of being missed. Pleasant is forgettable, safe is replaceable, nice is everywhere. The brain does not generate a strong craving for things it can get anywhere at any time with minimal effort. What the brain does crave with real intensity is something specific, something that only exists in one place. A quality of conversation it has not found with anyone else, a feeling of aliveness that does not arrive with most people and arrives reliably with. Specificity is the key. Not volume, not frequency, specificity. One conversation that goes somewhere real is worth 10 that stay at the surface. One moment of genuine, unexpected connection is worth weeks of consistent, pleasant contact. The brain remembers peaks, moments of unusual emotional intensity, far more reliably than it remembers averages. If you want to be missed, you need to create peaks, not manufactured ones, real ones. The first real principle of being missed: be genuinely, specifically present when you are there. Most people in social and romantic interactions are only partially present. They are thinking about how they are coming across. They are monitoring the other person's reactions. They are managing their own anxiety, their own agenda, their own hope for how the evening will go. And the person across from them can feel that divided attention, even if they cannot name it. It creates a subtle sense of not quite being reached, of talking to someone who is not fully in the room. The person who is fully present, who is actually listening, actually curious, actually there, creates a feeling that is rare enough to be remarkable. When you are with someone and you give them your full, undivided, genuinely interested attention, when you ask the follow-up question, when you remember what they said last time, when you respond to what they actually said rather than what you expected them to say, you create an experience of being seen that most people do not encounter often. And being seen, truly seen, is one of the most addictive human experiences there is. The brain registers it as profoundly rewarding, and in your absence, it wants it back. This is not a technique you perform, it is a quality you develop by actually becoming interested in the people around you, by putting the phone away, by being willing to be surprised by what someone says rather than waiting for your turn to speak, by treating the person in front of you as if they are genuinely the most interesting thing in the room, because when you are with someone worth your time, they should be. The second principle, have a life that is genuinely worth returning to. This is the one that the tactical approach tries to simulate with social media posts and strategic unavailability. And the simulation fails because it is exactly that, a simulation. The real thing is something entirely different, and it produces an entirely different effect. When someone has a life that is genuinely full, not performed fullness, not curated busyness, but an actual existence that has meaning and energy and momentum, two things happen. First, they are naturally less available, not as a strategy, but as a consequence of living. And that natural unavailability creates real space, space in which the other person notices their absence, not because it was engineered, but because it is genuine. Second, and more importantly, a person with a rich interior life is simply more compelling. They have things to say, they have experiences to share, they have enthusiasm and opinions and curiosity and stories. Being around them is reliably more interesting than being around people who are waiting to be entertained. And the brain, when it is separated from something reliably interesting, generates a strong signal to return to it. The practical implication of this is not get busy to seem desirable. It is invest in your own life because it makes you a more alive and interesting person, and more alive and interesting people are compelling to be around. Your passion projects, your friendships, your physical health and mental engagement, your creative pursuits, the things that make your eyes light up when you talk about them. These are not distractions from your love life, they are the foundation of it. Someone who is fully invested in their own existence does not need to manufacture scarcity. Their life does it for them. And unlike the manufactured version, it comes with the additional benefit of actually being true. The third principle, create experiences, not just time. Time spent together is not the same as memorable time spent together. Two people can spend an entire evening in the same room and walk away with almost nothing to think about afterward. Two people can have a 45-minute conversation that one of them is still thinking about 3 weeks later. The difference is almost never what was done. It is what was felt. Whether something real was risked, whether something honest was said, whether a moment of genuine vulnerability or genuine laughter or genuine surprise occurred that neither person was expecting. You can create these moments not by orchestrating them, but by being the kind of person willing to go there, willing to say the slightly more honest thing rather than the safe thing, willing to share the opinion you actually hold rather than the one that will be well received, willing to be surprised, to be moved, to be affected by what the other person says rather than staying behind glass. Emotional availability, paradoxically, is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. Not neediness, that is different, but the willingness to actually feel things, to let a conversation matter, to be genuinely present in an interaction rather than managing it from a comfortable distance. That willingness is rare, and rarity, in this context as in others, creates desire. The fourth principle, leave things unfinished. This one is more tactical than the others, but it is rooted in genuine psychology. The Zeigarnik effect, named after the psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, refers to the brain's tendency to remember and continue to think about unfinished tasks or incomplete experiences more than completed ones. The brain has a deep drive to reach closure. When something is left open, a conversation that ended at an interesting point, a topic that was raised but not fully resolved, an interaction that felt like it was building towards something and then simply stopped, the mind keeps returning to it, looking for the ending. In practical terms, this means ending interactions before they are fully exhausted, not abruptly, not rudely, but at a high point rather than a plateau. Leaving a conversation when it is still good rather than waiting until it has wound down naturally. Ending a date when the energy is still up rather than staying until the evening has run its natural course. This is not manipulation, it is good conversational and interpersonal practice. The interaction ends on a high note, the other person is left wanting more, and because the brain craves closure, it will keep returning to the interaction, replaying it, thinking about what might come next. That mental return is the beginning of missing someone. The fifth principle, and the one that underlies everything else, is this: become someone worth missing, not just someone trying to be missed. Everything we have talked about today, the full presence, the rich life, the memorable experiences, the unfinished conversations, all of it flows naturally from a person who is genuinely investing in themselves and in their connections. None of it requires strategy when it comes from a real place, and all of it fails when it is performed without the substance underneath. The person who is worth missing is not someone who has perfected the art of withholding themselves. They are someone who has so much to offer that your time with them is reliably one of the better things that happens to you. They are someone who is genuinely curious about life, genuinely warm with people they care about, and genuinely okay in their own company. They do not need to go quiet to create longing. They create longing by being consistently and genuinely a person it feels good to be around. And here's the thing about becoming that person. The benefits extend far beyond any single romantic situation. A life genuinely invested in, with real friendships, real passions, real curiosity, real presence, is a life that attracts people at every level. The romantic interest who wonders about you when you're not there, the friends who light up when you walk in, the colleagues who want to collaborate with you, the people who remember the conversation they had with you months later and are not entirely sure why. That is the version of this worth building, not the version that makes one person temporarily anxious because you've gone quiet, the version that makes your whole life feel like somewhere people want to be. So let's bring this together. 5 principles. 5 things that, when they become genuine rather than performed, make you the kind of person whose absence creates real longing. Be fully present when you are there, because genuine attention is rarer and more addictive than almost anything else. Have a life that is genuinely worth returning to, because natural unavailability is always more compelling than manufactured scarcity. Create experiences, not just time, because the brain remembers peaks, and you want to be a peak. Leave things unfinished, because the mind returns to what it hasn't resolved. And become someone worth missing, because that is the only version of this that builds something real and lasting. None of these require games. None of them require you to pretend to feel differently than you do. None of them require you to shrink yourself, withhold yourself, or perform a version of yourself that doesn't actually exist. They require you to expand, to invest in your own life and your own presence so fully that the people around you feel the warmth of that investment and feel its absence when you are gone. That is the only version of this worth pursuing, and it is entirely within your reach. That's Love Decoded. Drop a comment below. Have you ever tried the standard tactics? Going quiet, posting the photo, making yourself scarce? Did it work?
Tell me what happened. I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to know. If this video gave you a different way of thinking about it, subscribe. We release a new video every week that decodes the parts of love and attraction that most people never explain this clearly. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the next one.